Hello and welcome to my Friday video. Now today you're joining me on a trip up the mountain and I'm going to go and get firewood and you're coming with me. Now on the way I'm going to explain to you about some stuff about gua sha. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel, and if you've got any requests or questions, come in the comments and ask me. So in this week's video we're having a look at just who can do gua sha and who can't. There are some people who say you shouldn't be doing gua sha if you're not properly trained. Now what that really means about not being properly trained, I'm not totally sure, because most of the people that do gua sha are not properly trained, and probably including the people that tell you you're not properly trained. It's an area that is totally lacking, and I remember reading a report around 2-3 years ago in Taiwan, and it was talking about the state of education amongst nurses in the main hospital there regarding gua sha, and it was pretty damning. They basically knew very little about how it works and how to use it in the most appropriate way. And this of course is in Taiwan, where lots of people use gua sha. So if you're an esthetician and you're doing gua sha as part of beauty treatment, you're using a tool on the face and it's very gentle movements. Well, no, it's not related to how gua sha developed going back the many centuries ago. And sha isn't coming to the surface on the face, which is an important part of gua sha. But what you're doing is actually something that is widespread in the Far East, and it's widespread in China, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in Korea, in Japan, in the Philippines, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Cambodia and Thailand. So it wasn't just invented in the United States or in Europe. So to say that you can't do something which is clearly being used in these countries is extremely unfair. And in the history of gua sha, people have used it without actually knowing really how it works and the details about what gua sha does when you're treating something. An example of this is research that I read in Vietnam. It was going back into the 1980s, and it was looking at how rural Vietnamese were using gao cao, which is the gua sha that they use in Vietnam, and it was looking at what the rural people who were using it to treat illnesses understood about how it worked. And it was basically just an idea about wind coming in the body, and you're using a gua sha tool to get wind out of the body, and that was it. There wasn't any advanced understanding about how gua sha worked. So to say that you must understand what you're doing in order to do it is plainly just not true, and it's not in the traditions of how gua sha has been used and is being used in the Far East. Because everyone should know how to do gua sha, because gua sha comes from a folk tradition. Well, people say it comes from a folk tradition, but what is a folk tradition? It's a tradition of the people at the lowest end of society, the people who don't have lots of money, the people who can't visit the doctor, and the people who had an oral tradition and didn't write books, which of course why there aren't loads of gua sha books. And so following this tradition, and this is what I follow, is that everyone must have the opportunity to learn gua sha however they want to learn it, and to then use that to enhance their life in a way that will benefit both themselves and their communities. And that's really the underlying principle of everything I do with gua sha, and is one of the underlying principles of ecology in motion and the Komorebi Institute. Okay, so I think I've made it to the top without falling over. Now every time I come to the forest, it's about to do it now. Every time I come to the forest tries to kill me, at least once. And it's the deal I have with the forest, is to make it out of the forest alive without falling on something, or breaking a leg, or doing something really nasty. So every time the forest trips me in some way, as of now, well, once I fell flat on my face, but it was luckily it was down the bottom. There's a river, and it was after heavy rain, and there was mud there, and so I went straight into the mud, and it was really soft, so I didn't hurt myself. But I wouldn't really like to fall down here because this is all sharp. So I'm actually holding the camera with my other arm, so I need that arm to pick up some of this wood to fill up this bag behind us. So I'm going to go off, get the wood, fill my bag up, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, I'm back, and the bag is now full. Bag is down there, and I'm ready. So one of the things is, if you don't have the training to understand exactly what's going on with gua sha, and trust me, there's not many people that really do, what happens is that you bring in something else to fill the void. And this is what happens with a lot of the explanations of gua sha, in that the language of another profession often will be used and put onto gua sha, and then gua sha becomes other things which it technically really isn't. This is what happened with physiotherapy, and you sometimes see this with lymphatic massage, and other ways that people use to explain how gua sha works. But what happens sometimes is that the wrong information comes out, and things that gua sha clearly can't do are then claimed that gua sha can do. Especially about the face, for example. There's all kinds of things which are claimed about what gua sha will do to your face, which technically are not just not true, there's no evidence whatsoever behind them, and they're just anecdotal. So this is the reason I'm saying that people have to be trained in order to know what you can say and what you can't say, and have the correct balance about how you approach gua sha, so you're not throwing out any sensational things which have no evidence behind them, or no thought behind them, or no theory behind them. Look at gua sha in the context of gua sha and not something else. And look at gua sha in terms of its origins, so you would understand that if anyone was to criticize you about using gua sha, that perhaps you're not using sha, but you're still calling it gua sha. If you know how it works and you know what's happening, you can then explain that away quite easily without any problems. Okay, so first of all, let's get my heavy bag on, and that is really heavy now. That's the trouble. I just fill it to the brim, and I can barely walk down with it. But anyway, so see you in a minute. Okay, so the sun's setting right behind me in the west, and if I turn east this way, and if I angle it correctly, then you've got Barcelona just behind that church on the top of the mountain there. So now I go down, and with any luck, if the forest hasn't decided to kill me today, I'll make it to the bottom in about 10 minutes.